Hello, Rainbow Tenors. Tom Auger here. I'm not singing with you this term, but I've been going through some of the music anyway and just loving some of it. And I fell in love with this on this Sure on This Shining Night by Morten Lauridsen. It's another great Lauridsen piece with these long, beautiful melodic passages. It stays pretty firmly in the key of D flat major, just sort of sits there. Anyway, before I jump into all that, um, why am I sending this to you? Well, I did a bunch of these for the basses, and I just sent off one for the basses just now. But I love singing the tenor part, so I figured I'd do this for the tenor part as well. Essentially, it's me learning the piece, and that I know sounds like a horrible idea, but some of you might benefit from what's my thought process as I learn the piece, as I struggle with certain intervals, certain pitches, certain high notes. What am I doing that maybe you could adapt to your own learning process. So, follow along if you're interested and learn the piece with me. So, as I was saying, this piece starts and pretty much stays in the key of D flat major, which those are our main notes that we work with. So the tonic being D, that's our home. You'll hear me say that a lot because that's the note that we need to be able to hear without just listening to the piano. Even the first opening of the piano, which basically starts like this, and I think has an F in there as well. So it actually plays that chord right off the bat. To hear that note and know that that's our home, that's going to be really helpful. It's going to be helpful right away, actually, because that's the note that we start with, right? Sure on this shining night. So that's the D flat right there. So we already are starting there. So that's a very important note to kind of hear, and we're going to come back to it, and it's going to anchor you, even if the note we want is somewhere close to it, like the C, which is a really hard note to find in this piece, but it's just right next to the D. So if we can hear the D, we can go down in our heads, go down, and we can find that C. The next note that's super important because we start on this note a lot, and also it's a very pivotal note in the piece, is the fifth note. So if we start at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the A flat is a very, very important piece. And so the first time we see the A flat is here. Kindness must watch for me this side the ground. That's getting low for me there. That's another A flat. It's just, that's on the low end of the thing. So, okay, so hearing that's a fifth. So from the D flat to the A flat, as I mentioned, is a fifth. Very important concept in musical theory. The fifth is the second most important note in a scale, and we should be able to hear that note pretty easily once we get used to it. So train yourself. If I give you the D flat, can you find that A flat? Let's do the one lower. Oh, I guess tenors, we don't have to worry about that note too much. That's fine. I'm gonna actually increase the. Right, we're actually going up to here. So we got some higher notes to deal with a little bit later on. Not that far off from here. Anyway, okay, so that's really important, right? So we're gonna. Okay, so those are the two most important notes that we have to find because they're gonna anchor us a lot. So if you look through the score, right here, right there's your A flat. So we want to be able to find that. Sure on this side. Anyway, we're going to get to that in a second. But we want to be able to hit that A flat. That's going to set us up for success for the rest of that little run. Okay, so that's your A flat. And then the third most important note is actually the third in the scale. That's our F natural in the key of D flat major. And the third, if you know the third, you know the third. But if you don't, here's why the third is so important. Because the third is the note that determines the musical quality of the chord. You can have a major chord like this. Sorry, that's the minor chord. There it is. There's our F. And then in a minor chord, we would flatten that note. So that would be an F flat, which is also the same thing as an E, but don't worry about that anyway. Here that's a darker, that's a minor sound. So we have the happy. I'm having trouble with this keyboard anyway. Anyway, so the third is super important. And we want to be able to hear it. And tenors, we get this third all the time. And it's super important that we're pitch accurate because it holds the entire quality of the chord. And often we're the only people singing that. So we want to make sure we get that, because if we're flat on the third, on the major third, and it kind of gets in there, it's terrible sounding. It's terrible sounding because you're changing the quality of the chord and you're kind of halfway in between. So we're going to keep our faces bright and elevated and eyebrows up and all the things we can do to find that note and try to get a nice happy quality to that. So we've learned the first, that's our home. We've learned the fifth, and can you get the F? La. Okay, perfect. So that's kind of just like little theoretical basics. Those are going to be super important notes to get. Then the other one that comes around a lot is the fourth. So that's the fifth. And some people may learn that interval to be able to hear that in their heads. I still struggle with the fourth, to be honest with you. And I often find it by either finding the fifth and going down to find it, or finding the third and coming up to it. So that's going to be kind of a helpful little trick. We play around. There's that G here. You can see it there. Sure, on this shining night of star-made shadows round. And then instead of the fourth, the kindness must watch for me this side the ground. Okay, so that's the melody. It's doubled by the basses, so you can work together, and it'll help you really have a nice robust sound without really singing too loud. And it's entirely identical, so it's doubled completely on the basses. So I don't think we need to spend too much more time on the opening line. Finding that D, we're going to hear it, and we know it, and we're going to nail it from the very first note, which is there's a D here, there's a D there. In fact, that's the actual note that we're singing. So I will often do things like, I will often do things like this in my score in pencil, of course. And I will just like draw a little line telling me that's the note I'm listening for. And I do that all the time with different parts. I think later on altos have a note, or maybe the basses have a note, and it's really helpful to sort of draw that so that you can know what to listen for, and then you just hold that note in your head. Okay. Kindness must watch for me this side the ground on this. And then this is this long run. It's supposed to be done all in one breath until here. Good luck. I'm sitting, and there's no way I'm going to get that. Shining night, the sun. Okay, let's break it down. So, first of all, where are we coming in from? We're coming in from on, none. So it's going to be a full octave. We get that low. I guess actually it's down here. So that's a full octave. That's a full octave. So, let's see. Night. So that one, you're going to have to hold this note in your head because it's kind of a weird one to come to. We kind of want to go to the A flat, night, but we're not. He's not letting us go there. Night, the shine. Okay. So, shine. Okay. Shining night, the shining night. So this is the same thing that we're kind of doing here. num. So we're playing with the same notes. He's just sort of switching them around. So this sounds like the ending and the other one sounds like the opening of something. All right, so let's take that, start that from here again. So at the A flat, shining night, the shining night. So I keep the sound just freeze it. Just lock your throat. Maybe put a vibrato in it if you want, but don't change. Don't start to we're gonna keep that ite part right to the end. Shining night. Okay. Great. That's that first passage. Absolutely gorgeous. Sing it sweetly. You're doubling with the basses. Now, so this part, kind of hard to come in because everyone's coming in on the D, which is easy. We just finished on that one. We have to come in on the F, which is the third. So having the D, can you find the third? La, la. So again, the D. And so we're just basically doing the chord again, which is this to remind you here. We're just starting on the F. Sure on this shining night, sure on this shining night. So that's probably not too high for you if you're singing tenor. It's getting really close to the edge of my range. That G flat is really high, but you know, work on it, and I'll keep practicing that. So how do we find it? So it's the same. So here we are. Sure on this shining night, sure on. So that F is the same as that. I don't know if that's helpful. It is again our third. Sure on this shining night, shining night, sure on this shining night. Now, I'm not a vocal instructor. I'm not a vocal teacher. I'm not even that good of a singer, really. So all I have is tricks, and some of these are probably bad pedagogically or whatever. But I will say one thing that I noticed on my learning journey to sing is N or a G. Like there are certain consonants before a vowel that really mess me up and cause my intonation to suffer. You could hear that when I sang that night, it kind of went until I found the vowel. And then on the vowel, that's where we get the thing. So I would suggest like bouncing off that N as quickly as possible. Night. Don't try to vocalize night. If you try to vocalize the N, you're totally changing the shape of your throat, and I think that's why the pitch gets wobbly. So treat the N as a like a T, right? Tight. There's no tight is easier. Tight. Night. If you go night, then you're kind of doing the N thing. So I would suggest, this is my trick, is don't dwell on the N too long if you want to get a nice night. This shine. Okay, so now this is a hard note to find. The G. So we're going from this D that we're holding, and remember the A is sort of our fifth. That's our second most important note. So that's where we kind of want to go. Night this. It's not that. Night this. So the way I find it is I hear the A and I go down. Night this. Now, there's not a lot of time, but when you're learning, that's a totally legit thing to do. You'll notice that I'm learning without the music. I've got a keyboard, which really helps, but I don't have the music playing in the background. I don't know if that's something that you can do, but I find it helpful because then I can take my time and I can, work it out, play the intervals. Super important. I think if you even get like a chintzy piano app on your phone, just to bang out some notes, super, super helpful. Okay. So how do we, so that's, so basically no. Got it wrong. I was thinking about that one. The shining no. Okay, well, I'm singing the alto part. What the hell is wrong with me? Okay, okay, so again, finding that note. It is a fifth, but that's not helpful in the context of this song because we're not modulating to that note. So we're still here. So for me, that is a kind of a passing note. It's not the note we want. These are not the notes you're looking for. We are going down to right? So that's the other way that you can learn this note is by hearing the F where you're going and just go up a little bit higher because you're leading into it. Like the shy. That might even be easier than trying to go like na na, which was the first method I was talking about. I think hearing the F sharp, knowing that's where you're going, night shining night. So hearing that F, we got a lot of it going on here. So I think that's the way you do it. You think about the F and you're just leading down to it. Night shine or night the shining night. And I'm pretty sure that Allison will have us slow or have you slow down a lot here. Most conductors really almost turn those into quarter notes. So be prepared for that and just watch at that point. Okay, so have we got this? Have we got this interval? Night. I'll do it again. Night. Right, sorry. Okay. That was great, eh? Just play the wrong note, really mess you up. Do it one more time then. Night. Shining night. So full count of 3, and on 4 you hit the T. Typically is how that would go. All right. The next part, if you've heard and if you've sort of internalized the fifth, night, 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 la, 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 then you know where you're starting. You're starting on that fifth. So what I do is in my score, I typically write a little 5 here because it makes me, actually it's up here, isn't it? Tenor. But same note. I give myself a nice little 5 to remind me that I'm starting on the fifth. It'll help me. You don't have to do it all the time. In fact, it's pretty obvious in this song because the song doesn't really change keys. So A is always going to be the fifth for the most part. But anyway. The lady lies on the north. So I think there's not much to do but just learn the melody here. It's pretty straightforward. The lady lies down the north. All is healed, all is health. Down the north. So we've kind of changed a little bit. We've actually building a major chord on the fourth. North. And then we just write it back to. So the odd man out is actually this guy here. Because otherwise it's just another major chord. All healed. And then we're just leading to it. Right? All is healed, all is health. Back to our fifth. Okay. High summer holds the earth, hearts all whole. So I'm glad that this is an A because it's a lot easier to find than if he had gone to the G. So it's still our A flat, right? Our fifth. Earth, hearts all whole, and our third. So again, and this is typical Morten Lauridsen. He just does this a lot, and he's just hanging out in that root chord and just having a lot of fun with it. Okay, so this part I think is pretty easy. Once you get that, I think the rest is pretty straightforward. All is healed, all is health. Here's I don't know if I should be sharing this with you because again, I'm not a vocal instructor and I need lessons myself. What am I even talking about? But here's the thing I do when I get closer to the top of my register and I have an what is this called, a melisma, an elision? I don't know. Anyway, where you're singing the same vowel across two notes, and it gets higher. I'm finding that there's a small change happening in the roof of my mouth, at the back of my mouth, and the roof of my mouth, and it kind of just punches up into that. Oh, that's a very open ah sound to me. Oh, oh. Now I shouldn't do this because tension and all that. So I got to try to smile without smiling. Oh, but it's, and I tilt my head down, not this. The worst thing you can do trying to hit a high note is to do that. You're just straining your throat muscles. Oh, and it's this sort of covering notion as you get close to what's called the passaggio, which is, you know, for me probably around right. That's where your voice breaks. So wherever that is, it's usually around F, G, A for some people, lucky bastards. And then you've got to learn to kind of cover that and move into the head voice. So you're going chest, cover, head. I don't know, whatever. You know, if you've taken any vocal lessons, teachers make you do all sorts of visualize things coming out of your head and passage. It works, I guess. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It's I'm a piano player, so it's like if it's in tune and you hit the note, you play the note. That's it. Anyway, all right. All is health. High summer holds the earth, hearts all. So this is just the scale coming backward. Okay. All right. Now we're getting to, I think, the hardest note to find in the tenor part, and that is this darn B flat. Because the B flat is not part of our chord, right? There's the B flat. And the C is also not part of our chord. So but now we've done this thing in reverse. That may be a thing you just practice over and over again. Just do those two passages together. All is healed. All is healed. You can see the composer is deliberately taking the same words and he's just inverting it, right? That's putting nice parentheses around that concept. But how do you find it from the F? So we're here. Oh. It's a fourth, but that doesn't help anybody. So what am I doing? So I think when I was learning it, I went to my that second home, the fifth, and this is just a note above that. So there's our A flat, and we're going to go one more up. Summer holds the earth, hearts all whole. All is healed. I think this is the one you just gotta memorize it. This is the hardest interval I find to start. No one else is. Whoa, hold on a second. Sorry. That is true. Listen to the altos and the sopranos. Everybody's got that B. What am I saying? So that's another trick you can be doing. You don't have a lot of time to get there, but it'll help you confirm that you've got the right note. If you're close and you're ready to sing it, and you hear all is healed, and it'll be higher. The altos and the sopranos have it up here. Oh, so you need to translate that down an octave, but that may also be helpful. So a couple of tricks to get you to that B flat. Once you get that B flat, I think you're pretty much set. All is healed, all is health, all is health. That's pretty easy. We're doing that scale again, that dominant 7 scale, if you want to call it that. The summer holds the earth. Now this is a This is an interval. This is an interval for the ages. Oh no, wait a minute. It is for the bass. For the bass is that's absolutely brutal. But and I was singing the bass part. That's why it wasn't working. Okay, here we go. I summer holds the earth, hearts all whole, super easy, sure on this shining night. And again, watch watch this. A lot of conductors slow this down right to quarter notes, which is I think why this marking here gets the beat. And then of course don't forget the split. Shining night, shining night, shining night. Pick your poison. Sure on this shining night. That one's gotta hold that breath, right? So that's the upper tenor part's easier than the lower part. Because the lower tenor has this B flat. Sure on this shining night. It's actually not that bad, is it? Just looks complicated, but it's just going down. Shining night, sure on this shore. That's harder. So yeah. Shining night. So yeah, they oh boy. Okay. This one you gotta really work out, don't you? So I'm not worrying about the rhythm. Shining night. Okay, so that's actually easier. And the upper tenors have shining night. So watch out for that B flat. Da, 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 da. Okay. And then okay, so that's that. Yeah, we don't want that. Then this is we're actually modulating here to B flat major for a brief period of time, which kind of makes sense because the text is sort of I weep for wandering far alone. I weep for wandering far alone, but it's easy. Of shadows on the stars. And now the basses, they reprise the very opening melody, right? Sure on this shining night of stars made shadows round. So there, this A flat, yikes, nope. This A flat here is the same note that we're going to sing here. Very quietly. Sure on this shining night. So you can use a more airy voice in there, hushed. Sure on this. So you're making just a little more airs going through. Sure on this shining night. Still keeping it bright and high and sort of sparkling up in the top of the head. So that's our A. And so we've got that one. I don't think we're going to have any problem with this by this point in the song. If we see an A flat, we can probably hear it right off the bat. No, that's our D flat. You're on this shining night, on this side. So don't dwell on the SH too much. So you want to get right to that sound. And again, you're going to hold it. Shining night or shining night, depending on whether you're going to take the B or the A. Shining night, night, and then night, the shy, or the shy. Night, the shining night. And again, that's the third. We're holding the third. Anyone else holding the third? No one else is holding the third, right? D, A, D, and we have the third. So we've got to make sure that we're pitched up there perfectly. No, no. Sure on the shining. And then we finally get the tonic, the root. Everybody sings night, which is ironically very low for me. And that's it. Well, I hope you got something useful out of this. If nothing else, it gave me an excuse to sing the song more. I just can't stop singing it. It is just gorgeous. You can learn from the tracks in the folder, but honestly, open up Spotify, find it, sing with a professional choir after you've learned the notes. It's so much more satisfying, and there's some pretty good ones. There's a Utah one that I saw, and I think Blair's got one that he sent me that is really awesome. Anyway, have a fantastic season. If this was useful to you, don't hesitate to reach out. Tom@outlook.com. If there's another song in the season that's kind of you're struggling with, I'd love to learn it. So ask me. I love doing these things. Anyway, I can't wait to hear your concert. It's going to be fantastic. See you later. Happy singing.